Welcome to Chart Talk Training Module Configuration 1, Schedule Configuration. In this module, we will go through each submenu item for schedule configuration. We will review the difference between appointments and visits. We will go over setting up the clinic and provider availability and the settings that control how the clinic schedule is displayed. To navigate to Schedule Configuration, from the main navigation menu, click Schedule Configuration. Under this menu, you have access to view, modify, and create settings for appointment types, clinic business hours, provider availability, room info, visit type, and clinic schedule configuration. Let's take a closer look and start working our way through the menu. As you recall, appointments refer to the scheduled encounter for a patient. An appointment record is created when a patient is scheduled to come into the clinic. The appointment ties information regarding the patient encounter, billing, documentation, and payments together. An appointment has a default duration and can produce documentation or not. Let's take a closer look at the properties of appointment types. Name. This can be anything you want. New patient encounter, returning patient, review of findings. It's based on your clinic. Color. You can use the color picker to choose what color the appointment type shows up on the clinic schedule calendar, as well as the colored tiles from the clinic dashboard. Duration. In minutes, for best readability, use a whole number multiple of the time subdivision that we will set up using csconfig. You can always edit the appointment beginning and end time if you need to on an individual basis. Is SOAP. By checking this box true, the provider will be able to launch a SOAP note and create visit documentation. If the appointment type is one that does not require medical documentation, setting this false will prevent anyone from creating documentation erroneously. Clinic business hours defines the time of a day when the clinic is open and closed. You can enter specific provider availability on the next screen. Clinic hours should reflect the opening and closing times for the whole clinic. Clinic lunchtime is an outdated setting that gets taken care of on the provider availability screen. When setting up, please use the 24-hour time convention where 1 p.m., for example, is 1300 hours for your clinic business hours. Provider availability is the time when the provider is available on a specific day. You are allowed to have more than one time range for a day per provider. So, instead of programming a lunch hour for Monday, you should set 2 time ranges. For example, by setting 2 ranges for a provider on Monday, the first range from 800 to 1200 hours, and the second from 1400 to 1800 hours, the provider's schedule will be grayed out between the hours of noon and 2 on the clinic schedule and active from 8 a.m. to noon, and then again from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock p.m. You are able to set up rooms in Chart Talk, but at this time they are only labels and do not affect any alerts or logic in Chart Talk. This has been included in Chart Talk with future features in mind. Remember, Appointments in ChartTalk refer to the scheduled encounter with the patient. Visits in ChartTalk refer to documentation about the encounter. A visit record is a subset of information associated with an appointment. A visit type helps distinguish specific details about an encounter. A patient can have different diagnoses associated with different visit types. So if a patient has ongoing cases for motor vehicle accident, personal injury, and wellness care, they can have a different set of active diagnoses populating the visit record when you select those specific visit types from the drop-down list. A visit type has a short code and a description to identify it. The final property of visit type is accident. If a visit type is accident, a few fields are enabled on the visit record to document if it is auto, work, or other, and which state the accident occurred in. These options, when selected, control box 10 of the CMS 1500 claim form. For more information on this, you should take a look at our Coach's Corner video titled Building the 1500. The last of the schedule configuration submenu items is CS-config, which stands for Clinic Schedule Configuration. This controls the block breakdown of the clinic schedule. Time division controls the intervals the outer column is broken into. Time subdivision breaks the outer blocks into a smaller grid per hour. To determine your time subdivision, consider how you book your appointments. If your appointments are usually 15, 30, and 45 minutes, then the time subdivision could be 15, because that is the lowest common multiple for these appointments. If you schedule in 10, 15, and 20-minute appointments, then 5 minutes would be a better choice to make your schedule more readable. This concludes ChartTalk Training Configuration Module 1. Thank you for your time today.